Yo, what's good, gang? It's your boy Dez Reacts, man. We back with part 2 of Jeremy Clarkson's greatest raid of all time. Sorry for making you guys wait a little bit. Your boy had to get the fresh fade. I don't really see the cut, but anyways, man. Yeah, you guys really enjoyed this one, so as promised, I for sure delivered on this one. Man, it's just getting good for real. Like, we got, the UK boats just snuck past the German defenses, getting to the little ship bay so they could blow it up. So right where we started, the Germans caught them. So man, this is about to be freaking crazy, man. Hope you guys are enjoying my content. If you do, please smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the noti gangs, man, and leave a comment on your thoughts and feelings on this, or some other videos you guys might want to react to. And how I usually do those is I get the majority of the most votes for basically a video, then I'll do that one. Or if you become like a member on my buy you a coffee, or a member in my YouTube channel or whatever, that you'll be guaranteed your reaction video 100% if it makes sense. But anyways, man, I really rock with you guys, man. Thank you for giving me the 3.1k subscribers. Let's freaking go. But man, goal is to get to 4k by November. I know we're gonna smash that, but I'm not gonna hold y'all no longer, man. Jeremy Clarkson's greatest raid of all time, part 2. Let's freaking get it. Hope y'all love the cut. I do. Anyways, all right, let's get it.
Started to go wrong. The RAF had finally agreed to stage a bombing raid, but the pilots had been told not to bomb if there was cloud cover in case they hit French civilians.
That makes sense.
Unfortunately, it was cloudy and they hadn't been told what to do instead. So they just flew around, alerting the Germans to the fact that something was up.
Their flak guns turned...
Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. That's a terrible idea. Why would you not have a plan B just in case it is cloudy? So obviously, no military wants to kill civilians unless you're the Nazis of the time, you know what I mean? Like it's cloudy, so they can't see their target, so they didn't want to drop bombs on innocent civilians like the Germans did to the UK people. So it sucks that they didn't have a plan B. Why don't you guys think they had a plan B just in case it was cloudy? Why not just fly low? You know what I mean? Let me know.
very easily down onto the surface of the river, plus their searchlights.
With the Germans now suspicious, the Campbelltown's Heath Robinson modifications and fake German flag wouldn't fool them for long. And sure enough, they were soon challenged by a signal from the shore. But the British had a trick up their sleeves.
We found the German code books, naval code books, and the Germans didn't know we had them. And so we had the up-to-date passwords and countersigns, and we were using them. Much to the consternation of the German signalman, who was flashing signals asking who we were. And we were flashing back the right answers. We're a friendly force coming in for the night. We've got a damaged ship or something like this, you see, and putting them off.
Bro, you know how smart you guys gotta be? UK has some smart ass code breakers. Like, that's dope. The Germans were, giving them signals with the flashlights, and they're sending them right back. Like, hey, we're just coming in for a night. Ship's been damaged from the war, or whoever knows how it got damaged. But then they let them pass. That's pretty crazy. And keep in mind, they didn't have night vision and thermal, so they can't see exactly who it is. You know what I mean? So
Twice, the Germans opened fire, but each time they were silenced by reassuring signals coming from the Campbelltown. This meant the ships could get nearer and nearer to the target. Eventually, though, the Germans realized that, yes, unbelievably, it really was a British raiding party sailing right through their front door.
They managed to get to
good.
this point here, just 2,000 yards from the dock gates, which are kind of just round the headland. Maybe you can see it just over there. And all hell broke loose.
There was an awful lot of stuff hitting Campbelltown. I mean, it was absolutely hitting our poor little MLs, but Campbelltown being the big target, you know, and there was a sort of glare of searchlights.
And honestly, it's probably better that they're shooting at that ship, because remember the other little boats had you know, thin pylon, like not pylon, but they had like thin wood protecting it. So it's good. It's a good thing that they're shooting like this metal, you know, battle hardened ship. The other ones with all the commandos in it were like, it would be like shooting toilet tissue.
The air was filled with things that whistled, hummed and shrieked, and every one of them lethal.
Stupid ads.
The main focus for the German gunners was the bridge of the Campbelltown, where the captain, Beatty, was trying to keep a steady course by calling out steering directions.
The chap at the wheel was killed. His place was taken by another rating who was killed almost immediately. So then a chap called Montgomery, who was a Royal Engineer, took over, and he was standing there thinking, what do I do with this? When suddenly there was a tap on his shoulder and a voice said, I'll take it, old man. And it was Tibbets, the egghead, the brilliant scientist from Dartmouth, the man who designed the bomb in the bow, found himself at the wheel as the destroyer was on its final charge.
Okay, first of all, I'm mind blown. This is crazy. Like, that's freaking insane, bro. I did not think that the dude that designed the ship to blow up, like the smart chemist guy, I did not think he was on this raid. Like, I knew he was a part of it, you know, I knew he designed the ship, but I didn't think he was part of the raid. And think about it, the chains of commands were going quick. So obviously there wasn't bulletproof windows and stuff at this time yet. So the captain got killed. The second captain got killed. And then when he got killed, the third dude, you know, he said a young engineer or a older engineer didn't know what to do. And then the young, smart dude, the brilliant dude was just like, hey, old man, like, move out my way. I could drive this. I'm the captain now. If you guys know that movie, man, let me know in the comments. That movie's crazy. But anyways, yeah, that's wild. Bro, major respect to them, bro. Major respect to the Brits, bro. You guys are wild. That's the only way I could put it.
I remember a red-hot shell passing through the wardroom just over our heads and going on out and didn't explode.
If just one shell hit the rudder or the engine, or worse, the bomb in the bow, the mission would be over. But at this point, it wouldn't have mattered because Beatty was lined up on the wrong lighthouse, so he was heading for the wrong target.
At the last minute, a searchlight picked out the lighthouse over there, the green one, and Beatty realised his mistake. He barked out an order. So Tibbets swung the wheel hard to the right to try and miss the jetty here, and then hard to the left again. And you've got to remember, he's in a ship that doesn't handle, doing 22 knots at night under a hail of enemy fire, and yet he managed to just graze the jetty there.
Bro, this is like Need for Speed Tokyo Drift right here, but with battleships, bro. They're over here drifting around jetties and stuff. What? They realized they're going to the wrong one. They just started drifting, like whipping that thing around and drifting to the other one. That's crazy.
That is just an extraordinarily brilliant piece of seamanship. They came round the old mole, like really shifting at this point. And pretty soon you can pick out the dock gates. There they are, look. There they are. Maybe, I don't know, 500 metres to go. Really cranking it up now, the old girl. Imagine what it would have been like to have been doing this on that night in March 1942. Dark, searchlights, cannon, machine gun, massive fire coming from that bank. Aiming straight for that. What's the impact going to be like? It's going to be huge.
Okay, put this in perspective. It's nighttime. At nighttime, bro, things are 10 times scarier. These dudes know they're going into an active combat zone. They're prepared for it, but you can never prepare for the moment where it actually happens. You know what I mean? Like, loud ass noises, explosions, bullets just whipping, hitting your boats. Just, you see people getting shot, bullets going through like the wood, all that stuff, bro. And you still gotta go forward. And you know the impact of this is gonna suck. Like, you know it's gonna suck. You know it's gonna be whiplash times 10. And as soon as you guys leave the ships, you know you're gonna get shot at. So it's just like, you gotta be one brave man to volunteer for this. Shout out to the Royal Marines, man, the commandos. Y'all build different out there, bro. They crazy.
The ship reared up, putting Tibbitz's 4-ton bomb right over the gate. And despite the firestorm, Beatty turned to his men and said, well, there we are. 4 minutes late.
That's
the Navy
crazy.
had done its part of the job brilliantly.
Some
and
Marines
now, in
turn.
the 2.5 hours before Campbelltown blew, the army had to get ashore and create havoc. Yes, the Germans had fixed gun emplacements, and yes, they outnumbered the British by 20-1. But that was no problem, because the
20-1. They were outnumbered 20-1, and this is before. Okay, the air support isn't there because it's so cloudy. You know, it's 20-1 odds, bro. There's no thermal imaging. You don't got fighter jets to strategically hit targets where there's a lot of people. This is just straight up, you know, mano a mano, 20-1 right now. Oh my gosh.
The raiding party, remember, were commandos. They may have been picked for their intelligence and free thinking, but my God, they were tough.
Gotta be.
The backbone of their training was speed marching, and each commando unit would compete to see who could go the furthest in the shortest time. One group went 63 miles in 19 hours. Another marched 53 miles from Harlech to the top of Mount Snowdon and then down again in 17.5 hours. And remember, they did this while carrying 60-pound packs on their backs.
Determination is the most important thing, even on speed marches, where our great aim was to get the chaps to do 15 miles in full kit in just under 3 hours, finish up on the assault course and firing, and then leisurely go up to the top of Ben Nevis.
What that tells me, bro, a lot of these dudes were not only very intelligent, they were athletes for sure.
Part of mentally equipping them to do anything.
Not only was commando training tough, but it was also revolutionary. The regular army would stay fit by doing star jumps in PE kit. The commandos trained in harsh terrain in battle dress. They invented the assault course. In fact, their methods were so advanced, they're still used by elite forces today.
Yep, they're probably used by UK, USA, you know, whoever else for sure. And like those type of assault courses definitely are used today in full kit and gear.
A determination, doing things which you thought you couldn't possibly do, like on the Tarzan course, on a rope bridge or the death line. And don't forget, the chaps and commandos weren't supermen. They were ordinary chaps from all walks of life, but they were trained well, trained to get the edge.
Wow.
And instead of doing weapons training on rifle ranges, commandos practiced in massive mock battles with live fire.
All the weapon training.
That's something you definitely 100% will not probably see today is live fire training. Like, Yeah, I mean, there's obviously live fire training where they're all like moving tactically and shooting at targets, but live artillery rounds and stuff, no, that's not happening. Like they were just there. That looked like they were running next to like live grenades and shit. Like, nah, that's crazy, bro. I wouldn't expect them to do that live fire stuff right there.
Was geared to offensive action. A little example, the Bren gun was normally fired on the ground, but why not use it, firing it from the hip? And this was an innovation.
And they weren't just revolutionary with guns either. They also learned unarmed combat, stuff no regular soldier had ever even heard of.
How to tackle a bloke with your bare hands. Knock him out, spoil his prospects and pinch his weapon. And his gold watch too if he's got one.
The key element was getting themselves to convince themselves they could do anything. And you can only do that in the military sense if you train people to urge them on and overcome their inner fears and give them supreme confidence.
I'm just pausing right here because it just reminded me of something. If you guys don't like, you know, how I pause and react to stuff, because I had several comments talking about, well, if you just stop pausing it so much and just watch it, you know, they answer your questions like 2 minutes later. If you want to watch the original video, go watch the original video. I know most of you guys watched it, but I just had to say that, like, you're on a reaction channel. So I'm going to pause it as much as I want, I promise. I love you guys, though.
Back in Saint-Nazaire, the commando raiding party would need all that confidence just to get ashore.
We went up on deck and we went to the bows of the ship. Well, the 12-pounder had been hit. There were a lot of dead bodies lying around the place, a lot of blood on the deck, and there was a hole in the deck. I remember Johnny Proctor lying there with his leg blown off, cheering us on.
When I came up on deck, there was a brilliant flash and a ear-shattering explosion, and I felt a blow on my knee, which felt like a sledgehammer, and it knocked my knee on one side, and I fell to the deck. And I was lying there, and suddenly somebody grasped the rucksack and pulled me on my feet and said, "You all right, lad?" And it was Major Copeland. He said, "Bamboo, lad, at port side. Don't hang about here, it's decidedly unhealthy."
Tibbets and Goff were there.
God.
And they were holding these scaling ladders, and these two chaps were laughing and swearing and so on. And I think we probably dropped maybe even 8 feet down onto the dock.
The next thing was Germans. And they said, "Handy hoch." And I said, "Handy hoch to you."
What does that mean?
While Tiger was having a set-to with Jerry, the demolition teams were on their way to their targets. One of the main targets was this underground bunker, because down there, and I'm not absolutely certain how I actually get down there, but anyway, down there are the pumps that were used for emptying all the water out of the dock.
Wow.
Stairs. The job of smashing this place up was given to a team of 4 commandos led by Lieutenant Stuart Chant. Chant, a stockbroker in peacetime, had to place the explosives even though on the way to the pump house he'd been wounded in the left leg, the right arm, and both hands. Unfortunately, the explosives had been pre-rigged in England with very short fuses. So Chant sent his men back up to the surface in relative safety, knowing that when he lit the fuses, he'd have just 90 seconds to climb 7 flights of stairs and find his way through this maze of aerial walkways in the pitch black, because there was no light down here then, while pretty badly wounded.
Bruh, you gotta be moving. And if he died, man, RIP, I'm sure they'll let us know, but he got shot in the leg and shot in his arm. You're not gonna be able to move too quick. So we're gonna see how this one pans out. That's crazy.
He was a brave man. Chant made it. And the pumping house was gone. And meanwhile, other teams were having similar successes with the winding houses at both ends of the dock.
I went up to my colonel and saluted him and said, "So we've blown up the northern winding house." And he said, "Well done, old boy." So I said, "I'm now ready to go back to England, sir."
At 2:30 in the morning, the surviving commandos came here, where they'd arranged to meet the small boats that would take them home. They were pleased as punch with the way things had gone. But the elation was short-lived, because the scene that greeted them out in the estuary was truly horrific.
Almost all of the wooden MLs with their exposed fuel tanks had been blown to smithereens. According to witnesses, the whole estuary was on fire.
Their way home was blown up. Bruh. And things are going so smooth for them. They thought shit was sweet. Oh.
Chaps were drowning. There were pools of burning fuel on the water. You had to kick with your feet like mad to try and steer the raft away from the flames, and it was an absolute inferno.
There was a sort of sea of black. You could see sort of sinking boats and hear shouts coming from the river and so on. And then very quickly, the colonel said,
It was obvious that there was no transport home. So he said,
"Right, we'll fight our way out of the town and we'll
split up into small groups and make our way severally across the Spanish border."
Wow.
I thought that's a bit.
So was Spain neutral in the war? Because they're going from France. I'm pretty sure they're talking about Spanish border. I'm assuming that's Spain. Or were they allies with the with the US, UK, all that? Let me know in the comments.
Of a tall order.
Spain was a daunting 350 miles away. But even before they could set off, they'd have to fight their way out of Saint-Nazaire itself. So that's 5,000 Germans who by this stage were awake, alert and organised, against fewer than 120 Brits, half of whom were wounded.
Whoa.
If you're street fighting, you must secure any crossing.
Tiger Watson came round this corner, found himself face to face with a German sniper.
I ran forward, saw him lean forward, pressed the trigger of my Thompson submachine gun, and typically Watson, the magazine was empty. Click, click. Unfortunately, his magazine wasn't empty, and his shot broke my arm and bowled me over.
Oh, man. Bro. He broke his arm by getting shot. Bro, so he turns the corner. He's at a Thompson submachine gun, right? Pulls the trigger. He turns the corner face to face with the German. They're both of them are probably spooked. They're scared. He squeezes his trigger. His magazine is empty. And then the German, he had a round inside his sniper. Good thing it was the sniper and not a machine gun, though, so he probably wouldn't be telling us the story. But it sounds like he shot him and he dropped to the ground, so let's see what happens.
A party of Germans ran up to him, and one of them actually used the cliched expression, "For you, the war is over."
And I thought, well, I shall have to, escape eventually, but don't feel quite up to it at the moment.
I was almost certain I'd be killed because there was a watch point, a tower, and I had to go past it. The Germans must have seen me, and I knew they'd fire, and they did, but they hit me in the back and the arm and the leg.
Chance, the stockbroker who'd blown up the pumping house, made it to this point when a machine gun bullet fired from the top of the U-boat pens over there took his knee joint out. He was no longer able to walk, so he was captured as well.
The commandos realized that they were trapped on an island and that the only way off it and into the town was across this bridge, which was guarded by what must have seemed like half the German army.
Bro.
By the time they got here, there were only 80 of them left, but plainly, they still had some fighting spirit left because they just formed themselves into a sort of great big mass and charged.
Captain Roy had now led the...
Bro, and you had to. What other option you got? Like, it sucks. And you can only imagine they probably had light machine guns, you know, the ones that shoot very fast for very long, the big guns pointed at the middle of the bridge in the funnel. So we're gonna see how many casualties they took right here. Like, that's, oh man. Like, you have to make your terms with God or whoever your deity is and just be like, you know, if I die, you know, I'm gonna die giving it my all. And I think that's what these dudes did.
Assault across the bridge. Streams of bullets hitting those girders, ricocheting off the roadway. Machine guns, pom-poms, rifles. It was like a damn good November the 5th, only more so.
Bit by bit.
November the 5th, is that your guys' Independence Day? Do you guys have Independence Day in the UK? Let me know in the comments. What's November 5th? Like, what's so special about November 5th?
The commando numbers were whittled down until the remaining men, low on ammo, went to ground in the town. Corin Purdon ended up in a cellar.
We suddenly heard all this shouting outside, and then the door burst open, and there were Germans standing there with their coal scuttle helmets and their weapons, looking terribly tense. Frankly, if I'd been there, I'd have chucked a couple of hand grenades down and finished us off, but they didn't. And the colonel, who had his pipe in his mouth, just sort of walked up the steps and said, well, we've done what we came to do, you know, that's that.
Wow. And you could kind of imagine that there's a mutual respect between, you know, militaries, even though, you know, we're enemies at the time. There's still a mutual respect. Like, you're giving orders and you're doing your orders. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Let me know how you guys think about that situation. Like, would you have super ill intent to everybody you fight? Or are you kind of thinking like, man, they're doing it, they were told just like I am right now? Let me know. Wow.
As dawn broke, the battle was pretty much over. Just 5 of the landing party would eventually make it to Spain and freedom, and 222 would escape the horror on the few remaining wooden boats. Of the 600 or so men who'd come to France the previous evening, 214 had been taken prisoner, and 168 were dead.
R.I.P., man.
And worse still, it was now 7 a.m., 3 hours after the bomb in Campbelltown's nose was supposed to have gone off.
After we were washed ashore, we were put in the back of the lorry, driven into the town, and we were in this big room, and the Germans brought in a sailor. They fished out of the river and put him on the table and said, you know, you try and revive him. And we tried to get the water out of his lungs, and by this time we were saying to one another, you know, the Campbelltown hasn't gone up. The Germans were amazing. Yeah, so I mean, they probably couldn't believe it.
It's the mutual respect I was talking about.
Anybody would venture up into a submarine base heavily defended.
Some of the stories of bravery were incredible. Out in the estuary...
Wait, so the ship never exploded? I hope by the time this is over, I hope that thing blew up.
One of the surviving MLs had gone head-to-head with a much more powerful German destroyer. The British gunner, a commando called Sergeant Tom Durran, was asked to surrender on a number of occasions, but even though he'd been shot 16 times, he kept on firing, until he was overcome by the loss of blood and passed out.
Wow.
But the story doesn't end there, because the captain of the German destroyer was so impressed by Durrant's bravery that when he landed, he took the trouble to find the most senior British officer and said, look, I don't know who was on that gun on that little ship, but whoever it was should get your Victoria Cross. And he got it.
Whoa.
One of 5 awarded as a result of the action that night.
Wow.
So the commandos had fought well, but all they had to show for it was a destroyed pumping house and 2 damaged winding stations. Even at 10 a.m, the Campbelltown still hadn't exploded. And by this stage, the ship was crawling with German souvenir hunters. There was a real possibility the bomb might be discovered and defused.
At one point in the morning, Mickey Byrne was marched along here, right past where the Campbelltown was embedded in the gates, and that called for a remarkable piece of acting. He couldn't look pleased that it was crawling with Germans, he couldn't look quizzical, wondering why the bomb hadn't gone off, and nor could he look afraid that it might go off at that precise moment, blowing him to pieces.
Among the prisoners was the Campbelltown's captain, Sam Beattie, who was being held in a nearby hut.
I was interrogated by a German who spoke very good English. He discovered that I'd been in Campbelltown, and he was remarking that it was no good ramming a stout cassoon like that with a flimsy ship. At that moment, there was a bang.
Yes!
The blast.
That's what we wanted, baby! Let's go! W's in the chat. W's in the comments. W's in the chat. Let's go.
Wrecked the gate. Thousands of gallons of water roared in, taking what remained of the British ship with it. And the German souvenir hunters?
Dead.
They found bits of them on the roof of the U-boat pens 400 yards away.
A German petty officer rushed into the room where we were lying, saying, "We're going to shoot you all, we're going to kill you all." We just were so sort of exhausted and everything else.
They probably wanted to die.
Delighted that the explosion had occurred, and just said, "Please don't shout, just get on with it."
Hitler was so incensed that he later issued his infamous order that in future all captured commandos would be executed as spies. Small wonder. Damage to the Normandy dock was so comprehensive that it was not repaired until 1947,
Wow.
2 years after the war was over. As a result, Tirpitz was denied a home base in the Atlantic, and as a result of that, she was forced to spend most of the war in a fjord in Norway. She was finally destroyed by RAF bombers in 1944, and incredibly, this mighty battleship, the pride of the German Navy, went to the bottom, having never sunk so much as a fishing boat.
Whoa. Let me know in the comments, man. What do you guys think? Do you think that this ship, if it was able to be stationed in France, you think that it could change the tide of the war, or it made it last even longer? Let me know. That seemed like a beast ship.
In the smoke of giant explosions, the Tirpitz capsizes and sinks.
Wow.
The price for rendering this great ship impotent had been high. 168 British dead, around 400 Germans and 16 French, shot by mistake by SS troops.
Oh.
Still, the attack did mean that Churchill could say to the British and the world, "We're not done yet."
I thought he was the middle
And
finger.
it helped in France as well.
One very important thing is what the French Prime Minister said to us on our first return to Saint-Nazaire. He said, "You were the first who gave us hope."
Wow. Man, rest in peace to them. Am I tripping or the sound just cut out? Oh, there we go.
And what of the men? the commandos and the sailors who brought them on this, the greatest raid of all. While Tommy Durrant, the sergeant who took on a German destroyer, was captured and died of his wounds shortly afterwards. The bomb designer.
And another side note is it's cutting out like this and turning way down because of copyright protection claims. So that's why you guys could barely hear this part of it.
Nigel Tibbets, after he'd steered the Campbelltown into the dock gate, helped wounded men onto a nearby ML and headed for home. But his little boat was hit by machine gun fire and, as his wife had predicted, he was killed.
Wow.
After being captured, Mickey Byrne was sent to Colditz. After the war, he became a journalist, and today he lives in Wales, where his hobby is reading poetry.
What a world we might have made.
Tiger Watson was sent to the Spangenberg camp. After coming home, he qualified as a doctor and ended up in Africa, helping victims of leprosy.
I can't imagine all my senses being so alert. You know, every sense of hearing and looking and your heart pumping. Well, certainly will be the most exciting thing of my life.
Wow.
It made you feel that you could stand up to the test. I think that was a relief to know that one didn't fall apart.
I'm sure the youth of today would do the same as we did. I'm sure they would.
I mean, I think that's true. I think the youth would, you know. I mean, obviously we got way better technology now and wouldn't need to do all that per se, but like people in the military even now are, you know, they're probably just as brave, you know. Like, let me know what you guys think.
I think that somehow or other it's such a strange thing the phlegmatic British do this sort of thing, and I could see us doing it again.
But I'm always reminded when I think about this, and it was after the war, I came across a quotation by Mark Twain, who said that courage is recognising fear, courage is conquering fear, and that's absolutely true. Couldn't be truer.
Man.
Yes, you were afraid, but you couldn't afford to be.
Mark Twain.
Clever.
We all know him in the USA, I promise.
Today, the great moments of military history are marked with imposing monuments, and their anniversary is honoured with much pomp and ceremony. But to find a memorial to the greatest raid of all, you have to go to a car park in Falmouth, in Cornwall.
Car park.
It's just a rock propped up against some railings, and it seems rather small.
Wow.
I always had the feeling that anything that really offers some hope, whether it's international or national or even individual, some idea of your own, and it's impossible, never think so. Try it.
Good night.
That's it. Operation Chariot. Wow. Yeah, man, that was a pretty freaking crazy video, man. I really enjoyed that one. I appreciate all of you guys for recommending this one. If you guys have another top-notch documentary you guys want me to react to, man, please let me know. And man, please smash that like button for real. Hit the sub if you haven't, man. If you'd like to support the channel, links right here and links in the bio. I'd love doing this for you guys. Sorry for making you guys wait this long for it. You know, I gotta keep you guys coming back. You know, I gotta keep you guys wanting more. So, but for real, man, really appreciate you guys. Thanks for getting me to 3.1k subs, man. 4k on the way. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Peace.